down, walk. When you're feeling tired, walk. When you're feeling unmotivated, walk. When you look at the stuff all piled up in your house that you gotta work on and clean up and get to eventually, go for a walk. You'll be amazed to see what it's like when you come back from that walk. And what sort of renewed motivation you have. The energy that you have now been gifted to deal with those things and to have a more clear focus for what to do first. It is 12:59 p.m. on Saturday, October the 19th, 2024. And this is where it's at with Ray. Ray thinks he is inspired, but I don't know if Ray knows what he was inspired with. I just know I need to get out on a walk. I was in my room, and there's clutter in there. I know I need to deal with it and clean it up. There's a bunch of things on my to-do list that have been sitting there for a long time. I know I need to deal with that too. I don't like clutter, physically or mentally. And I'm going on this walk to help me for when I get back. Because one thing I know, as Snowball follows me all the way down the highway, one thing I know, every time I go for a walk, I feel so much better. So much better. You gonna follow me all the way on my walk? I'm gonna walk for a long time, you know. You sure you want to join me on this walk? Maybe I'll pick you up. There you go. Now we can hang out together. As a truck comes by. Okay, where were we? I don't know how many of us are out there who are like this, like me, who have struggles in the mind, struggles with focus, struggles with task completion, struggles with execution, getting things done. But I have that struggle. It's a constant battle between self-care, which I know I need, which I know I haven't really allowed myself to experience for much of my life, and getting things done. A bigger part of my life has been getting things done, going, staying up late, pushing hard, getting it done, pushing through the situations, pushing through the emotions, pushing through the anger, pushing through the resentment, getting it done. And I know as a man, there's a place for this, to be this way, to be strong. As I read in a post this morning, to feel the emotions, sure, but to act on them, no. To act on honor, duty, respect, integrity, with a moral compass, I think the sign of a weaker man is one who does not know how to harness their emotions, who is controlled by them, influenced by them, limited by them, who doesn't know how to rise up and face life despite however he is feeling in any given moment. And I know these things. I'm sure you know them too. These are deep inner truths that all of us men know. And I guess I'm speaking to the men right now. But I've come to know myself a lot more these past few years. To become much more self-aware, and I'm not ashamed anymore of my struggles and my weaknesses. I've learned how to assist myself, to help myself, even though these challenges are there. So that whenever I'm faced with these difficulties, I don't fall into a place of that guilt and shame and self-loathing. I just say, okay, I've been here before. It's okay, it happens. And here's the strategy that I have to deal with this. I seem to be getting a message these days about systems and having systems in place. And it's challenging for me because I think I'm a bit of a systems buster. I don't like following systems. I find them limiting and controlling, especially as someone who's creative. Someone who's system-minded might say something like, okay, I'm working on a book, so every day for the next 2 or 3 months at 6 to 8 o'clock in the evenings, I'm going to work on that book. Okay. But for those of us who are highly creative, highly intuitive, and empathic, that doesn't work. When we get creative, then we write. When we get inspired, then we write. We don't force it. We can't schedule it into our days. It comes when it comes. And that's just how it is. It's not something that can be produced. It's something that is received. Even as I say these things, I'm being inspired to say these things. I'm not producing it. I didn't plan on talking about this today. It's just coming to me. That's how it works with me. I'm a system follower's worst nightmare because I am extremely spontaneous and intuitive. And in the moment, at all times, very aware, while also juggling past and future, which makes my mind go a little crazy sometimes because I see the big picture all the time. And then I'm supposed to figure out what to do in the moment. It's quite a thing to deal with. When you know what's coming, you see the big picture. Whether it's job related or relationship related or whatever it is. Maybe this year, you have a big picture and you kind of know what's going to happen. And you've had the experience before of accurate predicting. Where it's not head predicting, it's heart predicting. It's you just know it. And then you go through that year and then that's exactly what you experience. Give or take a month or two, but pretty accurate. Well, that's how I am. That's how I see things in my life and the lives of those around me and in the world in general. All the time. This is swimming around in my head all the time. And then I wake up in the morning with the list of to-dos that many times I couldn't care less about. Cleaning this and putting that away and organizing this and setting this thing up. Because I have this big picture in my head and I'm like, what can I do towards that? I feel stuck. I feel like I want to do something in this big picture that I see in my mind, and I know, too, oftentimes, the role that I can play in this big picture. But then getting to that is another story. Actually doing those things, and for me, I guess, being disciplined enough to do those things. And this, I'm being very open right now. This has been a challenge for most of my life. I'm a wildly creative person. But I often lack the discipline to share that creativity. The self-worth to and value to see the worth of that creativity and in sharing that with others. And so it sits on the inside of me, stirring, fermenting. And then oftentimes I see others sharing the same sort of things. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I guess what I'm really trying to say is, in this journey back toward authenticity for me, to being who I really am and who I know I've been capable of being the whole time, really. And others may see me in a certain way as, I don't know, not capable, not strong enough, not disciplined enough, not driven enough. You couldn't be more wrong. When I'm passionate about something and I care about something deeply, I go all in. I risk it all. And I think that has been part of my lesson, is to figure out exactly what this thing is that I care so deeply about. And then to engage with it. See, this is what walking can do. I've been walking for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and I'm already feeling invigorated and supported and encouraged. That's all it took. 10, 15 minutes. Well, let's find out for sure. 15 minutes. We're at 14:43 right now. It's, like I said, it never fails. But then do you know what my challenge is? Carrying this energy and this clarity and awareness back into my home and then directing that energy in the way that it wants to flow. That is the challenge for me. It's almost like I got to set up some sort of a treadmill in my space so that I'm constantly walking while I'm doing stuff. And I've been learning how to hack, Ray. How to find those things that work for me. I suppose I'm creating my own system of sorts. Important things to remember, important things to let go of, important things to receive and embrace. Important phrases and affirmations, specifically for me, that are important, very deeply, crucially important for me to know, because they target limiting beliefs that I've had all my life. This is Hacking Ray. Figuring out the mystery. Putting the pieces back together again. And it is a very co-creative work. Where God and I are partnering together to figure this out. Well, I'm allowing God to work in and through me. And I'm figuring this out as God does this. God is already quite self-aware. I am who I am. I am that I am. Who was and is to come. I am. Could spend a whole nother hour talking about that statement alone, but I think I've done that in other recordings. And that's a fun journey for you to pursue on your own. Just start walking down that road and see where it takes you. Really learning and remembering, understanding, and deeply integrating who you are. Who you are, why you're here, what role you have to play in the greatest story of all. And then where you will return to. Once your time on earth has completed. It's really exciting. But of course, there is the perfect antagonist, opponent, who challenges us every single day in this why that is deep in our hearts, in this mission that we feel called to. There's a purpose for that too. We become stronger as we face this perfect opponent. We become more skilled. We learn how to protect ourselves better, to arm ourselves. We also learn how to advance better with our weapon, to move forward, to counter, to outwit our opponent, who then comes back to try to outwit us, to which we then counter move and outwit back again. It's a constant game, this whole life through. The sooner you can understand that, the more simple life may become for you. Especially in those moments where it feels like the problems keep coming. The challenges keep coming. Why? They're an invitation for you to rise up and meet the challenge. Not an invitation for you to run away and avoid the duel, the grand duel. They're an invitation for you because your opponent knows you have what it takes and wants to pull that out of you. This reminds me of what I was sharing about the other day, about the perfect antagonist and how we see them as this enemy. This long pause is reflective of all the thoughts going on in my mind right now about what to say next, if you're wondering. I think it's time we stop giving this devil, this Satan, so much credit. I think it's time for us to see things perhaps as they really are, and to understand that in the balance of things, in the harmony of things, great light is balanced with great darkness. And your great future, which you are being brought into, is inevitably going to be appropriately matched with a very great challenge. That's just how it has to be. And don't take my word for it. Look at all the stories of, well, everybody on this earth who has ever been through their own personal hell and who came through to the other side and what their lives are like now. And how God took them through these things in their lives. And they are now so much stronger, wiser, humbler, with a greater capacity to handle this new life that they're being brought into. They would not have had the capacity to handle what was next for them if they had not gone through the challenge and the difficulty. It's preparation. It is not something to be avoided, but to be welcomed, almost. To be grateful in. I know I was talking about grateful for the other day too. But I think that raises a lot of difficulties in our minds still. And this is me being intuitive and empathic when I'm saying these things. So I'll just say grateful in for now, to help our brains not go crazy about the word for. And you know what I'm talking about. Well, Ray, are you saying we should be grateful for cancer? Grateful for divorce? Grateful for bankruptcy? Grateful for living on the street? Grateful for having our lives ruined by drugs and alcohol and sex addictions? I hear ya. I hear ya. So let's be grateful in these circumstances. Let's be open to the lesson that is being learned, because there is a lesson. You can hate me all you want as I'm saying this, but there is a lesson in everything. And that lesson may be as simple as taking better care of ourselves, valuing ourselves to the point that we don't allow ourselves to stay in those hellish places in our lives anymore. Standing up for ourselves, believing in ourselves, knowing who we really are and why we are here, and why not living in that kind of life is, well, it can be seen as wasteful, but it's not a waste if the lesson is learned during these hard times. And this is the lesson that I learned in my hard times. of what it's like to walk away from God. Do my own thing. And some of you may say, well, you shouldn't have done that. You know better. Of course that's going to happen. To which I would say, cool. To which I would also say, what happened, happened. Everything is as it needs to be. Everything happened as it needed to happen. To bring me to where I am today. To the kind of person I am today, with the kind of awareness I have today, with the amount of wisdom I have today, and insight into life, and especially into who I am and how I operate, where my strengths are and where my weaknesses lie, how to protect myself, how to protect my heart with all diligence and vigilance. Because that is the most important thing right there. You don't protect your heart, you're asking for it. You really are. And I'm not just talking about the physical heart. I'm talking about the core of your being in all dimensions, in all realities. The core of your core must be protected at all costs. And know this, in life, anything and everything will come at you to get to your heart. Music, people, books, YouTube videos, social media shorts, everything is after your heart. There is a battle for your heart, for your very soul. The sooner you understand this, the wiser you will become, the wiser you will be. And then as you go about your day, you will become very aware, acutely aware of all of that which is either fighting against your heart or fighting for your heart. That which is set to deconstruct and destroy your heart, and that which is set to build up and support and heal your heart, strengthen your heart. Learn to know the difference. Learn to be around those and that which support your heart and support your growth, who you are as a being, your contribution, who celebrate you, who know your worth. And this becomes less difficult when you get to a place where you know your worth, where you practice strengthening your heart and supporting yourself, knowing your value and what your contribution is in this grand story, this grand movie, play. Once you know that and you start living that out, it is reflected in the world around you, including the people that now are in your life, including the people that leave your life, and the people that come into your life. It's beautiful, really, to observe this, to watch it as it happens. It's painful no doubt. Especially people you've drawn very close to and you have a strong attachment to. And now that as you are growing and changing in your life, and you can feel the distancing and the separation and the pulling away. Or perhaps it's not even a pulling away, it's a pushing away, sort of. Like two opposite ends, or two of the same poles of a magnet. They push on one another. They don't attract anymore. And yes, my brain is now going to the opposites attract concept and thinking about everything I just said about the heart. And if you're supporting your heart, well, you're going to probably attract a lot of people who want to pull down your heart. Perhaps it's a thought to consider. And if that happens for you, let me know, because I'm very intrigued by this question and this thought. It kind of makes sense, because as those of us rise up on this earth and we become successful and influential and selfless and sacrificing and giving and contributing to the healing and the betterment of humanity, isn't it interesting how now the criticism and the attacks and the pulling down and everything like that just ramps right up to correspond with that opposite side again? How does that quote go? The greater the risk, the greater the reward. Nothing worth achieving was ever met with... Nope. I'm making up a quote now, so be patient with me here. Nothing worth achieving ever came without great difficulty. I like that. Nothing worth achieving ever came without great difficulty. It's poetic. I like it. There's probably a quote like that already that might be better than my quote, but hey, this is original. This is a product of my own life, so there's value in it. If you want to quote that, have at it. I'm walking backwards now to the wind, just for the sake of this recording, so it doesn't sound like crap. But I have a good 40 minutes of walking backwards. That's the level of commitment I have to you right now who are listening to this. That's the level of commitment I have to this journey. That I can walk backwards for 40 minutes into the wind, out in the country, because I want to preserve the audio quality. Let's just come back full circle to this wonderful and ever-present now moments, which is all we have. 35 minutes ago, I felt unmotivated, distracted, a lack of purpose, lack of clarity. And now I feel great. I feel like I could just walk into any group or any circle of people or into any conversation and bring my best, be my best. On a small side note, I would do well to remember this, that if I want to bring my best to any situation, I go for a walk at least 30 minutes beforehand. to get me primed, if you will, to get that water flowing. Life really is a gift. Not only is it fun for you to open it for yourself, it's fun for others to open as well. As I'm saying these things, I'm being mesmerized by a group of birds flying in a cluster. I don't know if... I'm sure many of you have seen that. Huge, massive birds flying almost perfectly in sync in a big cluster. They all turn at the same time. They all flow at the same time. Like water in a river. And it's like they're putting on a show for me right now as I watch. A sort of dance in the air. Like a school of fish, but in the air. Set against a stormy blue sky with recently harvested fields and the cool breeze of autumn. In these last few days of warmth that will lead into the cold winter. And as Manitobans, we all pray that this winter will be less cold than the previous one. But I do find it quite intriguing to consider this. How those of us who live in extreme climates, like us in Manitoba, it seems to produce a certain breed of human being with a certain character that cannot be found just anywhere. A certain resilience, strength of will, determination. Also, an awareness of trust and surrender and letting go, because you can't control the weather and how cold it gets. And you just got to let that go. You can do your best, but you got to let that go when it gets to minus 40 Celsius and Fahrenheit. You just gotta let that stuff go. I think it's gonna take more than 40 minutes for me to walk back. My pace is half what it was before. And then the summers can be extremely hot and humid. Those of us who have traveled to hot places, many of us will say we prefer a dry heat to a humid heat. Well, we get humid heat here, and we get bitter cold winters. But it produces a strength of character that I haven't seen a lot of other places. It produces kinder people, graceful, caring, thoughtful people, because we've all been through our own personal hell. We've been there. Even with our friends in the US who live in the central north, places like North Dakota, Montana, Minnesota, maybe Wisconsin too. All part of that polar vortex region. the strong, deep winter region. You know what I'm talking about. When it really does feel like you gotta walk uphill both ways in waist-height snow. I'm curious to see what's gonna come of this. It's as though we are being prepared. Remember what I talked about earlier? Nothing worth achieving ever came without great difficulty. What's on the other side of our difficulty as Manitobans, Saskatchewanians, North Dakotans, Minnesotans, even South Dakotans, you get it too. What's on the other side of this? Montanians. What's on the other side of this difficulty? I hope it excites you, because it will be a reward in proportion to the difficulty that was faced. The greater the difficulty, the greater the reward. It's just how it is. Well, not only am I a Manitoban and proud of it, I have also been through hell. From the past 4 years, and I'm not just talking about the pandemic, or as some of us may say, the plandemic. Doesn't matter, it is what it is. I think many of us, when we calm ourselves down, can understand and appreciate the growth that happened during this period of time in our lives. And that where we are now is nowhere near where we were before any of this began. And then for me, all the other things that came along the way. That I, in a brief way, like to describe as becoming bankrupt in every area of life. Hitting rock bottom in every area of life. Every area. I'm serious when I say every area. And even simultaneously in multiple of those areas. Rock bottom. What kind of challenge that presents. What questions are asked. The lack of motivation, the depression, the anxiety, the fear, the guilt, the shame, all of that is so heavy. It's so devastating. To come out on the other side of that is nothing short of a miracle. The battle with self-worth and value, self-respect, self-love. When it all goes to hell, well, it all just goes to hell. When it all goes to hell, the first thing on your mind isn't necessarily what you're going to accomplish today. It's, how can I not accomplish anything because I just want to stay in bed and sleep all day? I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to eat anything. I don't want to leave my room. I just want to stay here isolated. To break out of that is nothing short of a miracle, and nothing short of God's great power at work in and through us. For the glory of God and God's goodness and God's power at work in our lives and God's love in and toward every one of us. This is what I've pulled through. With God's help, of course. Not in my own strength. Not in my own strength at all. But when I was at my weakest, God showed great strength. And now I know. And no one can take that from me. No one can shake that out of me. This is a truth and an awareness that will stay with me no matter what. No matter how hard it gets, no matter what kind of hell I go through in the future. These things I know at the core of my being. If God is for us, who can be against us? No one. No one can stand against us. And if God is in this endeavor, pity to those who would oppose what God is doing. I believe God is very much in this endeavor, raising up powerful souls, mighty souls, brave, beautiful souls, who have been buried by life, by life's little hells. We're being called to rise up in our lives. First for ourselves. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, then how on earth can we help others? I'm not saying we only take care of ourselves. I'm not saying to be totally self-centered and selfish. I'm saying that in order to help other people out of the water who are drowning, you need to not be drowning yourself. In order to help people on the street who are poor and don't have much to get by on, you need to have something to get by on to help them. In order to help others with their mental health difficulties, you need to not be experiencing intense mental health difficulties. To help someone out of depression, it sure as hell is going to help a lot if you're not the one who is also depressed. So this whole I'm ranting here. This whole conversation about putting others first, I think it can be a big trap. A very big trap. As it says, love one another as you love yourself. Well, what if you don't love yourself? Ever thought about that? How can you truly love others if you don't love yourself? I suppose the simultaneous opposite is true. How can you truly love yourself if you don't love others? Because what you see in them is a reflection of yourself. If you don't love them, you really don't love something about yourself. So learn to love yourself, and you will love others. Learn to love others, and you will love yourself. I love that conversation. I just had to say that. I think I'm going to wrap it up. It's getting windy. And I've shared enough, I believe. I don't have more to share for now. But I pray this has inspired you, that you take something from what I said. I like what a mentor of mine said once. These deep things aren't taught, they are caught. I pray that you caught something today, that your heart, that your soul was like, yes, that's the thing. And I might not have even actually said it, but it inspired a thought in you, or something stirred in your heart. I think that's beautiful. And I am honored and humbled to be a part of that experience with you, truly. This is what I'm all about. I don't have to worry about saying the right thing all the time, or even saying the thing at all. God can work through the words I speak, and the energy and the emotion coming from them. And use them to inspire. That's all I want. That's all I want. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me. And stay inspired.